Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Great to be here. First of all, really a big thank you to Entrepreneur India to host such a great event. Great to be, obviously, in this city. Chennai always rocks. You can see the energy here. This place is just, always, has so much interest in this green energy and sustainability space. So very much proud to be here with such a esteemed panel. And what I'd like to say is today, we've got about a quick 45-minute session. I'd rather keep it very, very interactive. I think, what we're going to talk about today is a new driver of global e-mobility. India today is definitely, on the move. Apart from the United States and Europe, you are seeing so much activity in this country. Basically the main areas that we're going to talk about is how, India is the apple of the eye of global companies. You're seeing international companies come here and investors. How India is becoming a global manufacturing hub for e-mobility. This is also something which is very, very important. I think technical know-how of global companies that could help Indian companies build the e-mobility market. And I think the reasons why global companies must look at India and as a market and a production hub. Really, the opportunity that we have in India is something that gives all of us, great chance to build new businesses. I see a lot of, people that I know in this industry. When we first started this journey almost 8 or 9 years ago, it wasn't like this, but you see the development, the participants, and the global players. If you really look at India as rapidly preparing itself as a global manufacturing hub, there is, e-mobility is definitely becoming a confluence of factors. The Indian government has been a big part of that also. You've got FAME schemes, you've got incentive schemes, PLI schemes, have spurred investment for both domestic firms and international. India is emerging as a global manufacturing hub for e-mobility, which is driven by many, many key factors. Some of those are government initiative and policies, which definitely, whether it is at the center or the state, Tamil Nadu has built great hub for manufacturing. E-mobility is absolutely very high on the agenda. Tamil Nadu had huge investments. We have a strong domestic market. I think, we have the youngest population in the world. We've got such a strong market demand that is, pulling the EV sector. We've got availability of skilled manpower, men and women. We've got 48% of our population is women, and that Nari Shakti is so powerful. And I think you've got international companies coming here all across to look at setup operations. We've got a cost advantage. Now, again, I think the cost advantage is important, but I think the people, the skills are there for, US and Europe, as well as Japan and Korea. We have infrastructure development, which is continuously happening in our nation, which is something that I'm very proud of what the developments that have gone over the last decade. Global partnerships, basically from international, from Europe, US, Korea, Japan, but also local partnerships. I'm a big player, I'm a big believer in alliances. There are many, many alliances that are going on, and I think this is a very important step going forward. Focus on renewable energy. Renewable energy is very, very important for the future. If we want to make this country, the third largest economy in the world, we want to make this a powerful force, I think renewable energy has to play a major role. And local production requirements. India has implemented policies and incentive local production and sourcing of components. And I think we want to make in India, we want to align forces. But what I don't want to do is import everything from abroad. I think if we have as long as Make in India, this is going to be something very, very critical and very important. The other thing is local companies, that are being developed with talent, whether it is in Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or all across this country. I think we have a great opportunity on that front. Technical know-how of global counterparties could really be, help Indian companies build the domestic market. The technical know-how and expertise of global counterparts can significantly benefit Indian companies in building, a robust domestic market for mobility. For instance, expertise in battery management systems, lightweight material, and energy efficiency can help Indian companies grow. Secondly, global partners can have extensive experience in market strategies, branding, distribution networks, and multiple other players. I think that Indian companies can strengthen their positions in the domestic market, as well as drive innovation and accelerate the adoption of electric space. The main reasons why global companies must look at India as a marketplace is, we have a vast consumer base, continuous development on that space, strategic location, skilled workforce, government initiative, cost efficiency, and leverage these factors for global companies can tap into India. Really, I think there's never been a time where you can see India shine, but I do think a global alliance, whether it's Europe or the United States or Korea or Japan, is something that will help. But I keep saying, local partnerships. We at OSM have done multiple partnerships locally, in the battery space, in other, in the motor space, in the powertrain space. So I think, the time and the development and the economy of India today showcases that. Tamil Nadu has played a big role in that. It's got a great, it's the EV acceptance in this state is in the top 5. Now, what I would like to do is maybe from my left, maybe Dr. Soro, you can, everybody can introduce in a quick background, and then on my right, and then we'll go open and, open up to questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for introduction. It's very illuminating and giving quite good overview. I'm Sauro Mesetti. I'm the chairman of the Indo-Italian Chamber of Commerce in Chennai. I am somehow an external to the sector as a representing an association of entity and corporate firms which are interested in bilateral trade and investment between Italy and India. Still, I'm here because mobility electric is very part of our priority for collaboration. The Italian government has signed with the Indian government 3 years ago a document for strategic partnership on green economy towards transition towards green economy, and of course, mobility is part of this. In that sense, it is a part of the economic system of Italy to think about more strategic partnership with India in this particular sector. At the moment, we are not one of the countries which are most active in India, but the plan is to have and strengthen our collaboration even further.
All right, so I'm Shishir and I lead Citroën in India. Citroën is a French automobile company. We are in India since 2017. We started selling in 2021. Of course, as I was mentioning, and as you mentioned also, that we are leveraging our global expertise as well as coupled with the local strong points that we have, especially on the skilled manpower, on the suppliers, on the supply chain. We are now exporting the electric vehicles out of India to multiple markets in ASEAN, Nepal, Bhutan, as well as in Middle East, Africa. So we are very excited to be here in India, and of course we have a manufacturing plant which is very close to Chennai in Tiruvallur. That's where we manufacture Citroën cars in India. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Hitendra. I head the sales at Bright Blue. So Bright Blue is an Indian company with a parent company being in Netherlands. So we do the complete manufacturing here in Goa. And we have our R&D setup and headquarters in Pune. So we are primarily manufacturers of AC Type 2 chargers. And we are already exporting it to European countries. And yes, it's an important discussion that we are going to have today. That yes, local manufacturing and local sourcing of the components is a very vital key chain, in fact, in the whole ecosystem, because having represented an MNC earlier, a multinational earlier, which was leading in EV charging space, and it comes from my experience of nearly 14 years, I can very clearly say that if you have to be viable in India, not only in terms of cost competitiveness, but also in terms of being close to the customers with the quality components that are there inside the chargers or inside the EV whole ecosystem. You need to look at local manufacturing and local sourcing of the components, not merely at local assembly of the components. So good to be there in this panel.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Puneet Agarwal. I look after the smart mobility connected automotive segment at Geo Platforms Limited called GeoThings. We primarily work entire ecosystem. The intent is whether it's the localization, bringing technologies from outside, or how the EV is going to behave or perform on within Indian, the premises in different locations. I think we see, and what we interacting with the ecosystem player also is that you really need to have a unified view across how your vehicle, your battery, your charging infra is actually behaving. Hence, and that has to be connected across the board, along with the complete connected ecosystems and the unified view. That's what we work with the ecosystem player, and that's what we're going to talk about it. It's glad to be here, and that was very insightful by the introduction session as well. We look forward for this interactive session, actually.
So, great to have everybody. We got a packed panel here. I for sure are going to learn from all of you guys, about the business. And I think the audience here definitely would be interested in hearing it. Obviously, Citroën has been around for a long, long time. When this startup world wasn't around, you guys were still building cars and vehicles all across Europe and the world. My question to you is, when we started this journey, right, and I've been in this game for about almost a decade, left my Wall Street days to become a green man here. The point is, obviously, the Chinese had already led in EVs and alternate energies. But obviously, in India, we say, "Derai drustai," everybody's joined the party now. And I think, everybody finds, it wasn't like this when we first started, because people thought this is just a fad. A few of our startup boys and girls were just doing things, and he said, "Koini, we'll leave it on the side." But what does Citroën see in India? What do you see, obviously, being a global player? And what are the opportunities and challenges that you see as being a super OEM? And thank you for sponsoring, such great events, obviously, helps the ecosystem. So maybe some insight into that would be greatly appreciated. And I think all these people would love to hear that.
Okay. All right. So first of all, it's a pleasure to be a partner in this event, because perhaps these events are very important. These will form the foundation of, they are like launch pads where all the entire ecosystem related to the electric mobility meets. And these forums are definitely a place to be. For us, when we started in 2017, see, EVs has not happened by chance. It's not that we started to see that EV is growing and then we started to build one. When we started in 2017, the platform, the CQ platform that we built for India and for the world was agnostic of whether it's an ICE car or an EV. So what it means is that we didn't have to fit the battery inside the car. We didn't have to split it, fit it, and then make it an EV. Never. We build the cars fully aware that these platforms are going to be agnostic. And that's where we are still continuing. Even today, every car that we build, so C3, when it was launched in 2022, in 6 months' time, we electrified it. Then we have C3 across and the new one that is coming in. So the power, the freedom or the flexibility that this platform gives us is immense, because very, very quickly we can change the same car into an EV. And that's the most important thing for us. As far as India is concerned, we are excited to be here because India is not only manufacturing cars, is also housing the global R&D hubs for Stellantis. There are two global R&D hubs, basically leveraging the skilled and educated manpower that we have. Two, we have the global ICT, which is developing all the information technology and the softwares. Both the global headquarters are here in India. So put together, we have three manufacturing hubs. We have two global R&D centers. We have one information technology hub. We have one software development hub, and all these are working for the globe. So for us, India is extremely important. See a lot of potential in India, and we are excited to be here in Chennai. Tamil Nadu government has been very, very supportive. When it comes to EVs, of course, as we spoke about during the presentations, that we still today close to 70 to 75% of the consumers, when they come to buy a car, they have EVs in their mind. But then the anxieties which are related to range, the anxieties which are related to the charging infrastructure are still weighing a bit heavily. Now we'll have to address them. Apart from this, as the gap in terms of the initial cost, we all know that the cost of ownership of an EV is much lower than a nice vehicle. But the initial cost is still, there's a gap. What we're seeing over the years is that the entry-level cars on the ICE side, the price is going up. On the other side, the EVs, the price is going down. And over a period, what we will see is that this gap will further narrow down. And when that happens, EV becomes a natural choice, because all of us who are living in metro cities, we know very well the hazards of the climate that we are facing. And at the core, if you're able to contribute to ensuring a healthier, safer, and a cleaner environment for futures to come, that I think will be a very, very strong propositions that the EVs will offer. Another very important aspect that I want to touch about is the electric mobility, because we always talk about owning the cars. But if you look at on the mobility side, there are a lot of B2B companies which have come up. They are providing, they have deployed massive fleets on the, these are ride-hailing companies, these are employee transfer companies, and they've deployed these cars. Today, if you look at it, even the biggest one, maybe with close to 10,000 cars on road, is able to satisfy only 20 to 22% of the demand. So what does it tell us? That people, or the new generation, is looking at a mode of transport which is clean, which is safe, which has a zero tailpipe emission. And that's where this entire electric mobility, as I would call it, instead of calling it an electric vehicle, it's a mobility that we are providing. And if that mobility can be green, I think that is going to be really, really good for the future.
Very, very good points. And I think what's exciting to hear is that when you say global R&D centers, when I was young, I went to the United States and, spent most of my life in Europe. It's good to see global companies building global R&D centers here. And that shows that we have the talent, we have the people. And I tell all those young men and women, don't go to the United States or Europe, build companies here. Let's make India a powerhouse. I would hope more Satya Nadellas or Sundar Pichai stay here than go outside. And it's great to hear that the work that you guys are doing at Citroën and that you believe this is a long-term. I think you're also looking to, maybe make this hub an export out of here also. Is that also in the works for Citroën?
Sorry, can you just
export EVs made in India globally?
Yes. So we are already doing it. We plan to scale it up. We are already doing it in Indonesia, Vietnam, Malaysia now, and Nepal, Bhutan. We're doing in the Middle East. We are doing in Africa. And this is going to grow because we are able to build the cars at a cost which is very, very attractive for the markets. I think one thing that we still have to solve is the localization of the batteries, because we are fully still dependent on the import of the batteries. And once we are able to do it, we'll be able to further narrow the gap or further bring the cost of the entry or the ownership cost of the cars down.
So that's I think definitely I know a few battery players that are doing great work in India. Some of them I've also partnered with. I'll send them your way and have a look. Thank you so much. Now let me come over to Dr. Mazzetti. Dr. Mazzetti, these days, Italy-India relationships are very close. And whenever your prime minister smiles, we get a smile in India from what I hear. So it's great to have an Italian on the left of me. Great to be here. I know you've been in India for 40 years. So you know India better than me. I've only been back 10 years. So maybe, I know you want to talk about some of the geopolitical and some of the impacts. And I won't ask you a specific question. I'm going to let you speak about your view on the Indian e-mobility space and what you think is important for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Uday. And well, I think there are, when we talk about the electrical vehicle sector, I mean, we are talking of a question that we have to assess the potential. I mean, I've been witnessing for the last 30 years tremendous change in many sectors, tremendous change in the economy, many sectors of India developing. At the same time, I saw after 30 years, there are certain sectors of the economy which are still talking of having a great potential. So now the industry of electrical vehicle is today at the crossroad. Which course will it take? Will it take the course which has been taken by other sectors like pharmaceutical, like R&D, like of course IT, like spatial, aeronautical, or will take course which has been taken by other sectors like food processing, for example, which are still lagging behind. I mean, there is a potential and the potential remain unexploited. As of today, the market size of electrical vehicle in India, if I understand properly also by the report that was presented this morning, is more or less similar to one of the low-consuming European countries. So there is a lot to do. There is big projection for growth that make India a potential hub for the future, but is not yet the hub for the future. And what are the conditions? I think that, as I mentioned before, India has become an international hub for R&D in many sectors. There is now a reputation of the country, high rating in the country as a capacity to develop in this R&D sector. Electrical vehicle worldwide is a sector that depends from research and development. It's a totally new case compared with the traditional sector that we talked before. Industry, technology in 28th century, it was more a matter of transfer of technology from West to other countries, developing countries. Nowadays, in the electrical vehicle sector is nobody, even in the West, even in the dominating market, with the exception for China, can claim to have a leadership in technology, can claim to be able to transfer technology. If I think of the situation in Europe, Europe is very much and badly in need of collaboration, of technology development in the sector of electrical vehicle. So that is one of the points that is very important for me, a key point. I mean, because it is a new scenario which electrical vehicle demand, not more transfer of technology, but collaboration in developing jointly technology. So that is a key for any future collaboration between Europe and India, which I would say. And that is a very important element scenario to consider. There are some constraints. I would mention in terms of developing India from Europe as a manufacturing technology. One is still the custom duty. They need to import component. They need to import electronic component. They need to import PCB. Even if the costs are not higher or the costs are reduced, still the custom in India is a variable that bring time consuming and bring delay and make uncertaining any production plan. So that is a very important fact. The other fact which is conditioning creates some problem with the common collaboration Europe and India is a kind of geopolitical Critical factor in electrical vehicle are, among all, battery storage. Raw materials for battery storage are basically controlled by China, whether it is lithium in Afghanistan or in Africa. Basically, they have a worldwide market control on this. So that is one element which is not economical, does not depend on the market, is geopolitical, but create limitation. Third element of difficulties, I'm happy to sit next to Citroën in this table, but if we look at the scenario of the European car manufacturer or the American car manufacturer, 25 years ago, when we were talking of car industry in India, we were talking of the only market in the world that has all the major car manufacturers with an established presence. After 25 years, most of them have left. I mean, when we talk of the European and the American, only Asiatic manufacturers remained for various reasons, but the same reason which is applied to conventional fuel car apply in a certain way to the potential for manufacturing of electrical vehicle in India. So there are few questions to be addressed. There is a tremendous potential. I've seen myself, I was involved 20 years ago in some pilot project in mobility electric. I see the growth which is taking place in 2 years, but there are many angles which still need to be explored before saying that India will become by 2030 a global hub. Also the potential is there.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mazzetti, first of all, and I could see the love between the French and the Italians is always there. I see that continuously happening. I think, and I think what I would like to point out is absolutely, you talk about alliances, from India and Italy, right? I think that, it is a win-win for both. I think that, if there are companies, if there are technology companies, if there are, companies in the space of mobility, if they are interested, absolutely, I think you should take that role. I will help you personally also on that. I have many relationships in this space, but I think it's good to see, we don't only want to have, the weddings in Italy, but I think we also want to have, we want to make sure that the e-mobility space and technology, and I think, where do you see quickly, where those alliances can be accelerated and more can be done in that space?
Well, I can say at the moment the Italian presence in the electrical sector, electrical mobilities, is more or less limited to Piaggio and some niche company. I mean, there are 700 companies established in Italy, most of them in the manufacturing sector, most of them in advanced technologies, some of them in conventional transport like Magneti Marelli, etc. But the only major visible impact that we have done so far has been with Piaggio, with the three-wheeler, where they claim to have 40% of the market share. There are some smaller size projects of supply from India of electrical motor for performance car, performance racing car, etc. That is the scenario. The future, I would say, it's basically made on the fact, I think there are component manufacturers which have a lot to offer in terms of collaboration with India, and then can fill a gap locally in the supply chain. Italian companies do not hesitate to come to invest, sometimes in joint venture, but sometimes is 100% in the manufacturing. There are incentives for not only from the central government, from the state government to upgrade the technology and to meet the target of the European Commission that made a target of zero emission by 2050, but has made a special program called 50-55. That means reduction of 55% by 2030 of the CO2 emission, which will not be achieved, like it was said this morning, some other panel discussion. Everyone fixed target, but does not achieve. But still, a significant step are moving in that direction. So I think that the component is an auto component, the motor component is an area where there is a lot to do, especially when we go to the two-wheeler. India is the largest market in the world for two-wheeler. Given the configuration of the Indian city, is still the best way to move for the second mile. And we have already a large presence of two-wheeler manufacturer in the country, so that is an area where collaboration can be improved even more.
Thank you, Dr. Mazzetti, for that great insight. I'll start now. I get it to Hitendra Ji. How are you? Good to see you. What I would like, if I could just maybe ask you, how is, how do you see, if in this market right now, BMS, what are the specific of challenge and strategies for providing battery charging solutions in urban areas compared to rural and remote regions? What I'm seeing is, yes, tier 1 and 2 cities are getting it, but until we get to 3 and 4, we get, our EV, e-mobility and alternate energy to the entire nation, and out of the 750 districts, leave, the tier 1s. How do you see that working? And your insight into that would be really helpful.
So I'll share my experience from 2020 onwards. So in 2020, when Tata came up with the Nexon car, precisely in January month, at that point of time, people were quite scared of, buying an EV, going on roads for a journey of more than maybe 150, 200 kilometers, because all you had was a 16 ampere plug that you can charge on a dhaba or a roadside restaurant, and didn't have any infrastructure. So the challenges that were there in front of the EV users, first of all, to buy an electric vehicle was, is there a charging station at my home? Is there a charging station? Am I allowed to set up a charging station in my office? Is my employer EV friendly and putting up chargers for me to use? That scenario has gradually evolved. So now coming to the first aspect of putting up chargers in urban and rural areas, I think chargers in tier 1 cities, inside the cities, in urban areas, they're going up, they're proliferating at a great rate. You see charging station each and everywhere. Yes, but with the initiatives of big CPOs, whether it be GeoBP, Tata Power, Xeon, ChargeZone, you have those charging stations now springing up in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. Personally speaking, I have had this experience that right from Bangalore, if you start your journey, even if you're driving a Tiago, a low-range MR vehicle, you will find a charging station every 100 kilometers in Tamil Nadu and in Kerala and in southern Karnataka. That is a testimony to the fact how EV sales have sprung up in this area. But the challenges continue to happen, and challenges are on both the sides, AC and DC chargers. So whenever you're putting up an AC charger, let us be very frank, if you're buying an EV, if you're buying a basic EV, you will have a 16 ampere socket-based charging solution at home. If you're buying little advanced EV, you will have a wall box charger along with a car. Now, for that charger to work effectively in your area, you're very lucky if you have a charging station to be deployed and if you have your home in a tier 1 city. The grid will be stable. You will not have voltage spikes. You will not have an issue there. But for a person who is even buying a Kia EV6, booking it up in Chennai and getting the delivery in Salem, or getting the delivery done in a remote area from here, 350 kilometers away from here, the grid situation won't be same. He will complain that there are voltage spikes happening. Charger is reporting over voltage errors. Charger is tripping down. So this is the number one challenge that needs to be countered, not only from the grid side, but from the manufacturer side as well, that the components should be designed keeping in mind the Indian grid situation, because at the end of the day, trust me, 90% of the charging happens at home. I have been driving EV for over 3 years now. I have driven 77,000 kilometers, and my 90% charging has happened only at home. It is only when I drive on a highway on a 200 kilometer or 300 kilometer highway, I tend to use a charger every 100 or 125 kilometer. Now coming to the DC charging scenario. In DC charging scenario, yes, there are DC chargings being put up in the city areas, but I think the need for them is to be there on the highways. Let me be very frank. Supposedly, a gentleman out here in the public is planning to start a CPO business. Now, he would look at a utilization rate. His utilization rate won't be high in the city area. because individual user will have a charging option in his home, at his workplace as well. Literally every place, wherever the AC chargers are getting put up. So his only way to bring up the utilization is to either tie up with the fleet providers so that his utilization goes up inside the city area. So inside the city area, the need of putting up the DC chargers is not that much, I would say, than there is on the highways. But yes, alongside with that, with proper technologies, because you don't want an EV user who has trusted on a technology, who comes from a non-engineering, non-technical background, who has bought an EV, who has bought an EV, but because he thought that it will give him a cost advantage in terms of running a vehicle, he wants a reliable charging point. He doesn't need to stop over during the night, charge his vehicle just because the charging station was down there because of a power outage. So the locations have to be good, the power has to be stable there, and the charger has to be of a quality which can have a good input voltage range. I'm going a little bit into technical. India will have a 3-phase voltage connection each and every place on a highway where the DC charger is getting put up. Usually the ARAIs of the world and the ICATs of the world, they will demand you to design a charging station up till 440 volt, 450 volt input range. But on the remote areas, highways, the input voltage will go up to 480. 490, and that is where the charging station will stop your charging progress and report an over voltage error. To avoid that to happen, your input voltage range inside the charger, and similarly to that, many other qualities need to be at par with the Indian system, Indian requirement. So it needs to be till 480, 500 volts so that a CPO doesn't have to invest externally on a voltage stabilizer. Trust me, this is a very big roadblock, and it hampers the progress of, utilization of the charging stations of the CPO and EV users taking a journey, for example, I would say from Bangalore to Chennai. You have multiple charging stations in between, but you want them to run 24/7 so that at whatever point you're going there, you are able to do that. Now, coming to the last point on the grid allocation of power. So whenever you're putting up a station, you want the power to be allocated in a much quicker and better manner. So right now in India, there are two constraints. One, if you are applying for a power, some states have 3-phase LT connection available for you till 50 kV connection. And that puts a stoppage on a small CPO. He will put up a 30 kilowatt DC charger or a 50 kilowatt DC charger, which is running at 45 kilowatt capacity. But now you want the worlds of people like GeoBP to put up 120 kilowatt stations everywhere with 60 kilowatt gun. And for that to happen, the LT connection range should be increased up to 100 or 150 kilowatt throughout the nation. It should not be limited to a single state, so that the capital expense that is done on the electrical infrastructure side, just because you're getting an HT connection, that gets reduced, and I would say your ROI is better, and plus your utilization, of course, will go up if it is a stable LT connection. So these three constraints, yes, they are still there. They are improving. Many states are bringing it up. And as per my latest interactions with certain state governments and grid people, they are expanding it up to now 50, 100, 120 kV also. And people are able to get a stable LT 415 volt connection at ready disposal. And the timelines are also decreasing. And trust me, the situation is improving. And one last message from my side. I know I have been educating EV to everyone. I think it is the right time to buy an EV to help motivate the charge point operators of the world. Their utilization will go up. The moment you all, the EV enthusiasts, will have an EV under you, you will love that, and you will further motivate the generations to come to adopt that technology, because it is easier to drive in ICE and to talk about EV, but it is difficult to drive an EV and advocate about EV. So that is my request.
Thank you, Inder. Very, very well said and really, really detailed. I think definitely, I think you're the Salman Khan of EVs in India, and I think driving 77,000 kilometers, I think doing all the work and some really good input, and I appreciate your, obviously, Puneetji, I'm sorry, you've had to wait and get so much, information from, obviously, Geo, you guys pretty much own the country one way or the other, But what I wanted to say is, how does IoT enable real-time connectivity in electric vehicles, and what benefit that this connectivity offer in terms of vehicle diagnostic, remote monitoring, over-the-air updates. I think IoT is so important, especially as we go further and further into this green energy and sustainability space. So you're sort of, you've got a lot of experience in this space. I think the public at large would love to hear that.
Thank you. I'll just pick cues from all the conversations here. I think adapting the technologies which is there in Europe, US, China to India, one, whether that will work or not. Hitendra brought out very important points, and that's where I will just mention. Look, the automotive space, and I'm not talking ICE, but EV has been also in the conversation for quite some time. But automotive space has an evolution which has happened over the time actually. But just to give a numbers. ICE engine automotive still in India, only 28% of them are connected, though we are the third largest automotive, the market in the world actually, but still 28%. E-mobility and EV by default would have to be connected actually. And I think some of the points were recently brought in, whether it's a vehicle, whether it's a battery. I think there was some discussion happening on the battery techs being done, BMS is being done. The charging infra, both from utilization perspective and everything, plus the backward integrations with the grid. 100 years initially was okay, but now we're so connected, all of us, the attention spans, I'm sure 50% of us are right now hearing the conversation, but are also on their phones. And that's what the population is now, right? So what is needed for the states talking about, increasing the grid, CPOs talking about the utilization. Is that going to happen sequentially? No, it has to happen parallelly. But is there a data points to do that efficiently? No, not today actually. So what we are talking about is we primarily saying that it by default has to be connected, all of it. It's an ecosystem, so will never be owned by one individual. I think that's just to be sure. But we primarily promote is that using IoT, using over-the-air upgrades. India is not the country where you can have recalls like some of the major manufacturers outside do. They do a mass recalls of the vehicles. India, the dynamics are completely different. What we primarily promote is that using IoT and upgrades and having the connected ecosystem, specifically in e-mobility, is working on a framework called SHOW. That's safety. I think that was one of the questions which was asked from Dr. Jhunjhunwala from the audience as well, whether it is safe to drive EVs actually. IoT can help you monitor, what is it really safe? Is the temperatures going high? Is the water logging happening at certain places, whether your EV will get stuck? The anxiety of not just the range, but whether my EV will even work. I don't even know that actually today. But that data needs to be collected. Some proactive monitoring has to happen. So safety, health of the vehicle and the overall ecosystem, operational efficiency, which is very important because operations of not only these chargers, whether there is the voltage variations, whether the vehicle is performing because of the bumps on the road, whether the loose connection with the battery, how is your battery performing in the 52 degrees or rains or the humid environment in different parts of the countries actually. And then finally the warranty, because that's where the OEMs come into the picture, and some of them claiming it's a 5-year warranty, some of them claiming it's a 10-year warranty, when we don't even know how these equipments are going to work, how these parts are going to work there. So this is one space, and this happens once in a time in century, where the whole ecosystem would have to come together and bring and gather these inputs and feed into each other these real-time data points, so that some of them can be taken care proactively rather than reactive in nature actually. Because it's the long tail and long lead cycle times for these things. I think we are surpassing all of those points, and hence a lot of these things would have to be done very, very proactively. And whether you take some of the technology from outside and put it in India, still needs to be looked at the Indian grid systems, Indian infrastructure, Indian roads, all of those things have to be taken into consideration. So I think that's sheer few points I would.
Thank you, Puneet. I'm getting a nudge from the organizers that, but you know what, we could keep talking. You guys are so knowledgeable that I could keep learning from you guys for a long time. What I want to do is wrap this up. A quick, 30-second from all of you. Where do you want to see in your own spaces? We've got a very diverse, team here, and I think where would you like India in your space 5 years from now? Just a quick 30-second for everybody for in your own space.
I think, as I said already, specifically the e-mobility space would have to be by default connected. E-mobility space, next 5 years, India is the place. We are the countries of, we various country in a country. Some of our states are bigger than some of the sizes of the country as well. So I think we will leapfrog the e-mobility space in India in 5 years. And in our space, as I said, I think it's necessity for the e-mobility space to be connected, whether the infra or the vehicle. And in 5 years, we see that by default, any e-mobility ecosystem play or infra or vehicle will be connected by default, actually.
Hitesh?
So in next 5 years, I would like my country to be, 100% converted when it comes to the passenger bus market, the bus heavy commercial vehicle market. Trucks getting converted, electrified to the tune of 20%, 30%. That will be a huge turnout. Passenger taxi cars that are there, fleet cars, which are converting at a brisk rate, they should be converted up to the tune of 80 to 90%. Even the small fleet operators, passenger cars to the tune of 25 to 30%. And yes, the two-wheeler market and three-wheeler market to the tune of more than 85%. And along with that, the smart grid solution providers to arrive in India, the smart grid technologies to arrive in India, existing Indian manufacturers along with global manufacturers collaborating on giving good technology and not only talking about the prices, but also talking about giving the reliability to the customers and many, many, many new EVs for the EV users to choose from. So that will be my vision for India in the next 5 years.
Dr. Mazzetti?
Well, what I would wish for India in the next 5 years is a stronger interaction and integration in the urban design with the e-mobility. Because one of the major obstacles is the way the city are configured. It might be good for a two-wheeler to move, but it's very difficult for a car, especially when we talk about second and third city. So I'm joining what has been said before about public transport. So the future is for integration between public transport and last mile and two-wheelers. Is a formula that has been quite successful in Europe. And that is something that can give a big fillip to the mobility in India and non-polluting mobility.
All right, so as we know, in India, we don't follow a linear growth. We always, leap bound, and we skip the steps when we adopt something. And I feel that in next 5 years, we would adopt EVs at least up to 20% when it comes to passenger cars. I see Citroën as one of the leading players, continue to be one of the leading players when it comes to providing the electric mobility. I see India not only manufacturing cars for India, but also a leader in supply of electric parts as well as the vehicles across the globe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. I think I at least learned a lot here with such a diverse background. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, ma'am. I'm sorry if we took a little extra time, but when you're learning, then you forget about the outside forces. Appreciate it. Guys and gals, if you want to have any questions, please feel free to ask, all of these super gentlemen here, once we get off. Thank you again to Franchise India. Thank you again to Entrepreneur India for hosting such a great event. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions? Yeah, can we request the hostess to help us with the mic, please? Can we have from the console? Mike? Yeah.
Please give your name and then who you would like a question from, yeah? Answer.
Sure. My name is Diptarag. I'm from a solar LNG perspective. It is not a question for anyone, probably anyone can answer it. It is a statement like that. I would love to see Roman holiday in an EV Vespa made in India.
Can you please repeat the question?
Would love to see Roman holiday in an EV Vespa made in India.
I'm sure that's not too far. I got our Italian friend here. I think we can make sure that, depends on, I think a lot of work's been going down, but maybe Dr. Mazzetti, you can answer that.
I think the EV Vespa made in India is not a far dream. We have to find the director to make the move.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I am Sendil Bhaskar from MCS. Regarding most of the time we are using in lithium-ion batteries around the nowadays scenario. Tell about sodium-ion batteries, especially in India, not considered for abroad. What the vision for sodium-ion batteries for the last further 5 years?
I think many battery technologies are going to be in the future. LFP, sodium is definitely in the works. I think there are so many new technologies, but my only question to battery tech, and I work with a fantastic company called Exponent Energy, who does great work in the battery space. I think you have to be careful. Safety first. I think in the name of technology to move fast, we want safety, right? We want cost and safety. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's what's clarified here only. That is.
Pardon?
That's all I clarify here only.
Yeah, I think you can use technologies. They're always good. We're working on hydrogen technology ourselves. But I think I want, Rome wasn't built in one day. But in India, Dr. Mazzetti, they want to build Rome every day. You know what I mean? Their patience is very limited here. So, but we've got to give it some time. Maybe if you have any.
I think that it's possible to do something, but especially technology for recycling has made tremendous progress. It's linked to a general problem of India in terms of solid waste management, which is one of the areas that we have to tackle. But that is, solutions are feasible. The problem is coordination of the policy. The central policy, the state policy, and municipality and panchayat. This is a big institutional challenge that is there in the country, and that is where something has to be done in terms of strengthening the institution for environmental management.
Thank you so much. As we are running short of time, we'll take the questions.
Just one question.
Okay.
This is Baleshwar from Baleshwar Auto Private Limited. And thanks to you, sir, you explained very well about the grids in rural areas. I have just a small question for you. Sir, you explained very well the today's grids in rural areas. So I just wanted to know about the grids impact on two-wheelers, pertaining to two-wheelers. So I just wanted to have a few words from you, sir, on that.
So,
thank you.
First of all, I am not a sir. I am Hitendra. I have not been bestowed with any knighthood from any country. So just for that. And secondly, on the two-wheeler, whether it is a two-wheeler or a three-wheeler, two-wheeler and three-wheeler will have a lesser battery capacity ranging from 2 kilowatt-hour to 6 kilowatt-hours from two-wheelers to three-wheelers. The impact of grid during the charging progress is on the voltages and on the continuation of the power and on the voltage spikes. So the impact will be similar, but then the safety has to be inbuilt inside the vehicle, two-wheeler and three-wheeler vehicle, and has to be inbuilt inside the charging equipment as well. Because as sir told just a few seconds ago, for any EV manufacturer and for any charging equipment manufacturer, the safety is the most probable thing. So if the grid is relatively unstable, then you need to have components inside your vehicle and inside your charging equipment to arrest those faults. So that should be there, sir.
I think all the other questions we got to take outside. The young lady here is getting very I think we're delaying everybody. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.